Hello students, this is Mr. Root. Today we will be doing section 04, adding and subtracting rational numbers. At the end of the lesson, students will be able to add and subtract rational numbers. So hopefully you already know how to add and subtract natural numbers and whole numbers. We've learned how to add and subtract integers, and so today we're going to focus on adding and subtracting fractions. So, first of all, how do you add or subtract fractions? A few things you need. You need to have fractions that have common denominators. Once you have common denominators, you can add or subtract the numerators, and then the denominator just stays the same. So we have our first example, negative 7/8 minus negative 3/12. So step one, we need common denominators. Right now we have 8 and 12. So we need to figure out a common multiple between 8 and 12. Well, the multiples of 8 are 8, 16, 24, 32, and so on. For 12, we've got 12, 24, 36, 48, and so on. And from here, we can see that they both have 24 in common. They both have 48 in common. And if you keep going, there's going to be a lot more. All right? It's easiest to choose the smallest common denominator, so you have to do less reducing at the end. Okay, so we want to change these both to 24 in the denominator. All right, and then you just got to figure out, how do I go from 8 to 24? Well, I need to times by 3. If you times by 3 on the bottom, you have to times by 3 on the top. So we got 3 times 7, 21. So 7/8 is the same as 21 over 24. Okay. Same thing over here. 12 times what equals 24? All right. Well, I know 12 times 2. So if you multiply the bottom by 2, you got to multiply the top by 2. 3 times 2 turns out to be 6. All right. Now we have our integer rule here. All right. Subtraction is the same as adding the opposite, or adding the inverse. So instead of minus negative 6/24, I'm going to add the opposite. All right, so that changes it to adding. So I can do my adding rules. So I've got negative 21/24 now plus positive 6/24. So I'm going to use my rules, my adding rules, my integer adding rules. If it's the same sign, I'm going to sum or add them. If they're different signs, use difference or subtract. Okay. Now I've got negative 24 and positive 6. Okay. So since they are different signs, I'm going to use difference. All right. Now 21 minus 6 turns out to be 15. Okay. And I keep the sign of the bigger one. 21 is a bigger number. So since it's negative 21, I know my answer is negative 15. Now this stays over 24. Denominator stays the same. And then we just reduce. 15 and 24 can both be divided by 3. And your final answer is negative 5 over 8. All right, so that's how we do fractions. Now, how do you add and subtract decimals? Well, first of all, you need to line up the decimal points, and then add zeros if you need. So we're our first example here, negative 14 and 3/10 minus 18 and 62/100. All right, so I'm going to rewrite that, and we have our integer rule. All right, subtraction is the same as adding the opposite. All right, so instead of minus positive 18, I'm going to change it to plus negative 18. All right, so I've got negative 14 and 3/10 plus negative 18 and 62/100. All right, so I'm going to add those up, and I'll just put them on top of each other, and I'm going to use my integer rule here. All right, same sign, we're going to sum them, different signs, difference. All right, in this case, they both have negative signs, so we're going to add the numbers together. All right, same sign sum. Okay, they're both negative. I know my final answer is going to be negative. Oop. Now, I've got an area right up here where there's nothing. If there's nothing there, we know the number that represents nothing is 0. So there's a 0 in the hundredths place, and from here, I can just add 0 plus 2, 2. 3 plus 6, 9. The decimal places are lined up, so the decimal place just drops down. Right? 4 plus 8, 12. Carry a 1. We got 1, 2, 3. Right. So, negative 14 and 3/10 minus 18 and 62 hundredths turns out to be negative 32 and 92 hundredths. Right. On to the summary. For the summary, you need to answer these two questions. What is the most important when adding or subtracting fractions? And then what is most important when adding or subtracting decimals? Make sure you're writing in complete sentences.